The Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is a vast, interconnected grid of concrete, highways, and suburban development. It is one of the most rapidly expanding urban regions in the country. Yet, hidden directly in the center of this suburban expanse is a bizarre anomaly: a 12.5-acre, 50-foot-high hill covered in wild, untouched prairie grasses. This map shows the geological origins of that hill. It is a 144-million-year-old remnant of the Great American Blackland Prairie, an ecosystem that once stretched from Canada to the Rio Grande. Over centuries, that massive expanse shrank to this single dot. Long before European settlement, the Wichita Indians revered this specific hill as sacred ground, using its high elevation for ceremonies. How did a pristine piece of ancient prairie survive in a state famous for aggressive sprawl, completely surrounded by a modern town of 75,000 people? The mound's survival is the result of a century of local activism focused on maintaining control over the landscape. In the 1840s, the Republic of Texas established the Peters Colony land grants, drawing rugged, self-sufficient farmers from the Ohio Valley into the region. The land grants came with strict agricultural rules. Settlers received massive acreage, but were legally required to build log cabins and cultivate the land to secure patents. By the 1850s, the community organized around the Flower Mound Presbyterian Church, anchoring their identity to the hill. Despite aggressively clearing and farming all the surrounding land, these early settlers displayed a behavioral anomaly. They left the hill entirely alone. They used it as a hay meadow, but stubbornly refused to ever drag a plow across its soil. Fast forward to the mid-20th century post-war boom. The community faced an existential threat when the rapidly expanding city of Irving began an aggressive push to annex the surrounding land. The residents executed a defensive maneuver. In 1961, they held a vote and officially incorporated as the town of Flower Mound, using municipal boundaries to legally block Irving and maintain their independence. A decade later, in 1970, the town faced a much stranger threat: a top-down proposal known as the Flower Mound New Town Project. This project carried massive institutional weight. It secured $18 million in federal loan guarantees from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. This schematic outlines the developer's utopian vision. They planned a master-designed satellite city for 70,000 residents, divided into 14 highly structured neighborhoods. The explicit goal was to build a rigid barrier to block the urban sprawl of Dallas and Fort Worth. Elite corporate backers drove the initiative, most notably Edward S. Marcus, the chairman of the luxury retailer Neiman Marcus. Original residents viewed the master plan as a top-down invasion that would trigger massive tax increases to fund the new infrastructure. Fearing for their community character, the locals revolted. They threatened to disannex their properties and forced highly contested local elections to thwart the developers' plans. By 1976, the project collapsed under local opposition and a stalling economy. The failure of the New Town project marked a victory for local identity over federal urban planning experiments. In 1974, the opening of the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport brought the very expansion that previous developers had failed to catalyze. Located just 4 miles south of town, the airport's scale transformed Flower Mound into a primary destination for corporate relocation and rapid development. This chart shows how rapid the change was. Between 1980 and 2000, the town's population grew from roughly 4,400 to over 50,000 residents. Faced with tens of thousands of new residents, the town's leadership realized they could no longer simply block growth. They shifted their strategy towards strictly metering the incoming development. In 1999, Flower Mound made a tactical pivot, adopting a program called Smart Growth to tame the airport-driven boom. Smart Growth established legally binding standards. If developers wanted to build, they had to prove their projects specifically aligned with the town's existing character and protected its environmental quality. Which brings the story full circle, back to the 12.5-acre mound at the center of town. To ensure the hill survived the construction boom, a group of citizens purchased the mound in 1983 and placed it into a permanent land conservancy. Today, the hill remains unplowed. It proves that active local curation can successfully coexist with extreme regional economic pressure.